Mm, Goodness. Okay. It's Monday, April 6th, the Monday after Easter. I hope everybody had a good Resurrection Day, good Easter Day. Um, we had a great service, great breakfast at church. It was really fun just to get around with everybody and talk with everybody. I'll tell you what, though, when we go in for our sunrise service, we actually have our sunrise service at 8 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't at sunrise. And we had a big breakfast. It was so good. But it was cold outside where we were. And so when we all come back into the sanctuary and it was warm and everybody's bellies were full, it was like the ingredients to put you to sleep. So it was um, it was tough there for a few minutes to get woke back up. But anyways, it was a really good service, such a great day. I woke up so excited. The significance of Easter is just so important. It's, I mean, in my opinion, it's the most sacred holiday there is. It tops Christmas because we base our entire belief and our entire Christianity hinges on the resurrection itself. So, had Jesus not came back, everything would have been pointless. And so, but he did. He did come back. But can you imagine? I was just thinking about all this, and we're going to be doing Judges chapter 9 tonight. But I was just thinking, can you imagine being one of the apostles and the guy you have been following that says he's gonna be the king, even though his kingdom is not of this world, is what he says. You're expecting him to just go take over the Romans, and then he's crucified. And Jesus told him in Matthew that he was going to be the Son of Man would suffer and then rise in 3 days. The temple would fall, tear down this temple, and I'll rise it back up in 3 days. We didn't know that he was talking about his temple, his body. We thought he was talking physically, just like the Pharisees thought. This thing took us so many years to build, and you say you can do it in 3 days. And he wasn't speaking of that actual temple. He was talking about himself rising in 3 days. But those little clues they didn't, I don't think they even really realized it until he rose 3 days later. But when he's crucified and he's dead, he's laying there, hanging there dead. I can't imagine what those people were thinking, what the apostles was thinking. And something that we don't often talk about is after Jesus had died on the cross, um, Joseph, was it Joseph? I think it was Joseph of Arimathea. He was a very rich man. He was the one that asked Pontius Pilate for the body of Jesus, and he says, and Pontius tells him that he can have it, and he grants him that. It doesn't say that Joseph of Arimathea was the one that actually took the physical body off the cross, but I mean, whoever did it, I would imagine he had to do it. Being an extremely wealthy man, he would have had extremely nice clothes on, and he would have had to go up, actually pull the nails out of Jesus's hands, and take the body and lower it down. Take the nails out of the feet, lower the body down, and touching a dead body in old Jewish law made you ceremonially unclean, and Passover was just a few hours away. So he knew that he was going to be ceremonially unclean because he had touched the body, the dead body of Jesus. And he wasn't going to get to worship on Passover, which was a big deal. And he still chose to do that, and he still chose to touch that body because he knew that that was the Son of God. So it's just a really good story all around. It's heartbreaking at the same time, but it's just it's so good. And I say all of that to say I hear a lot of people when they're praying and talking, they say that they're not worthy. So what I want to make clear is we are worthy. If we were not worthy, then why did Jesus die? He thought we were worthy. He believed we were worthy enough to give up his life, but we are worthy by his grace and through his grace. We're not worthy to go to heaven. There's not a single righteous person on earth other than Jesus. We all live in sin and we all have sin. So, in that aspect, no, we're not worthy of our own salvation, but because of the grace of God, we are worthy to go to heaven because of him. I just wanted to throw all that in there. It being Easter, it was really good. But we're going to go to chapter 9 in Judges, and this is a really good chapter. I really enjoyed it. It's about Abimelech, which is the son of Jeroboam, which is Gideon. And so, anyways, it shows when people reject God leadership and choose God's leadership, and they choose power, pride, and self-interest instead. This is one of the darkest chapters in the book of Judges. And there's not a judge raised up by God in this chapter. Abimelech sort of raises himself up. God does not raise a judge in this chapter. Abimelech makes himself king. So this chapter answers the question, what happens when sinful people try to build a kingdom without God? And the answer to that is betrayal, violence, division, and destruction. So we're going to get started. I'm going to read verses 1 through 6. We're in chapter 9, reading verses 1 through 6. And it says, and this is the word of God, and it says, Now Abimelech the son of Jerubbaal went to Shechem, to his mother's relative, and said to them, and to the whole clan of his mother's family, saying in the ear of all the leaders of Shechem, Which is better for you, that all 70 of the sons of Jerubbaal rule over you, or that one rule over you? Remember also that I am your bone and your flesh. And his mother's relative spoke all these words on his behalf in the ears of the leaders of Shechem. And their hearts inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, He is our brother. And they gave him 70 pieces of silver out of the house of Bel-Berith, with which Abimelech hired worthless and reckless fellows who followed him. And he went to his father's house at Ophrah and killed his brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal, 70 men on one stone. But Jotham, the youngest son of the Jerubbaal, was left, for he hid himself. And all the leaders of Shechem came together, and all Beth Millo, and they went and made Abimelech king by the oak of the pillar of Shechem. So Abimelech wants power, and after Gideon dies, his son Abimelech goes to his mother's family in Shechem. Remember, too, by the way, that Abimelech meant my father is king. So we found humor in chapter 8 over that. Because in chapter 8, verse 23, Gideon had said, I will not rule over you, the Lord will rule over you. And then yet names his son Abimelech, and Abimelech, my father is king. So Abimelech tells these leaders of Shechem, remember, 70 sons, okay? But Gideon Jerubbaal had 70 sons, but one of those was from a concubine, not his wife, but from like a handmaiden. He slept with her, and she lived in Shechem, and that child is Abimelech. So Abimelech goes to Shechem, and he says, hey, would you rather 70 of my brothers lead you guys, 70 bosses, or me? Who, by the way, might I add, is your flesh and bone. I'm your brother. Right off the right off the bat, y'all gonna be friends with the king. Y'all gonna be relatives with the king. So they were like, hey, you know what? He's got a point. He's got a point. Let's give him some money. So we give him some money from a false idol. And he takes that money and he goes and hires some servants. He goes and hires some people to follow him because, well, nobody wants to follow him, I don't guess. So he pays to have some followers. And then they all gather up and they go and kill the 70 brothers who would have been his closest competitors for the seat of king. So he's using family ties and politics to gain support. In the temple of Belberith, that's what I was talking about as far as he uses the idol money to hire the workless and reckless men that we see right there in verse 4. And then they all go and murder the 70 brothers. But one of those brothers, the youngest brother, Jotham, he hides. And Abimelech never notices him. And so he lives. An important lesson for us out of that is sinful ambition often begins with, I deserve this. I deserve this. I should be in charge. The ends justify the means to get there. That is all sinful ambition. Abimelech wanted a crown more than he wanted righteousness. And that's not good. We're going to keep reading. We're going to read verses 7 through 21. We're in chapter 9, Judges, 7 through 21. This is a little bit longer. It says, when it was told to Jotham, the youngest brother that hid, when it was told to Jotham, he went and stood on top of Mount Gerizim. Mount Gerizim overlooked Shechem, okay? And he cried aloud and he said to them, listen to me, you leaders of Shechem, that God may listen to you. This is a very, very important parable. I'm going to say it's one of the most important parables in the Old Testament that I've read. Are you ready? Verse 8, the trees once went out to anoint a king over them, and they said to the olive tree, reign over us. But the olive tree said to them, shall I leave my abundance, by which gods and men are honored, and go hold sway over the trees? And the tree said to the fig tree, you come and reign over us. But the fig tree said to them, shall I leave my sweetness and my good fruit and go hold sway over the trees? And the tree said to the vine, you come and reign over us. But the vine said to them, shall I leave my wine that cheers God and men and go hold sway over the trees? Then all the trees said to the bramble, that's a thorn bush, by the way, you come and reign over us. And the bramble said to the trees, if in good faith you are anointing me king over you, then come and take refuge in my shade. But if not, let fire come out from the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. Now therefore, if you acted in good faith and integrity when you made Abimelech king, and if you have dealt well with Jerubbaal and his house, and have done to him as his deeds deserve, for my father fought for you and risked his life and delivered you from the hand of Midian, his father Gideon, or Jerubbaal. And you have risen up against my father's house this day and have killed his sons, 70 men on one stone, and have made Abimelech, the son of his female servant, king over the leaders of Shechem, because he is your relative. If you then have acted in good faith and integrity with Jerubbaal and with his house this day, then rejoice in Abimelech, but let him also rejoice in you. But if not, let fire come out from Abimelech and devour the leaders of Shechem and Beth Millo. And let fire come out from the leaders of Shechem and from Beth Millo and devour Abimelech. And Jotham ran away and fled and went to Beer and lived there because of Abimelech, his brother. All right, there's a lot going on in this. The trees want a king. This is a parable, okay? First, they ask the olive tree, then the fig tree, then the vine. Each one refuses because each one already has a useful purpose. The olive tree says, should I leave my oil? The fig tree says, should I leave my sweetness? The vine says, should I leave my wine? Finally, the trees ask the bramble or the thorn bush. And the bramble says, yes, but a thorn bush, it gives no fruit. It casts no shade. It's not a blessing. It only scratches, burns, and it spreads fire. Not much good comes from a thorn bush. It's a thorn bush. And what Jotham is saying here is worthy people, like the olive tree, okay, the fig tree, the vine, worthy people do not seek power. Dangerous people, the bramble, Abimelech, crave power. Israel chose a thorn bush, Abimelech, instead of faithful leadership. The bramble says, if not, let fire come out from the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. This is Lebanon. This is a prophecy. Abimelech and Shechem will eventually destroy each other. The meaning of this parable, the olive tree represents faithful leadership. The fig tree, sweet, nourishing leadership. The vine, joyful leadership. The wine. The bramble, selfish, destructive leadership. This is one of the clearest warnings that I've read in the Bible about choosing leaders based on pride, ambition instead of character. Let's keep reading. That's a very powerful parable. Let's keep reading. We're going to read 22 through 25. And it says, Abimelech ruled over Israel 3 years. And God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the leaders of Shechem, and the leaders of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech, that the violence done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might come, and their blood be laid on the Abimelech their brother, who killed them, and on the men of Shechem, who strengthens his hand to kill his brothers. And the leaders of Shechem put men in ambush against him on the mountaintop, and they robbed all who passed by them along that way. And it was told to Abimelech. Abimelech ruled for 3 years. Verse 23 says, God sent an evil spirit. I looked into that a little bit deeper, because God sending an evil spirit didn't sit right with me. And the Hebrew word there used is ra'ah. It's R-A-A-H, ra'ah. And that word, the translation does not necessarily imply demonic activity. It simply can mean bad. So, but however, the focus is on the fact that God replaced the harmony that was between Shechem and Abimelech and replaced it with a spirit of distrust and disagreement. God allowed division and conflict as judgment for their sins. Both Abimelech and Shechem were guilty. Abimelech murdered his brothers, and Shechem leaders helped him do it. Or not the leaders, but the people of Shechem helped him do it. Now, the same evil that united them in the beginning is beginning to tear them apart. It seems that sin often promises unity at first, but eventually it turns people against one another. Reading verses 26 through 41, a man named Gaal, Gaal, tries to take over. And that's what we're about to read here, 26 through 41. And Gal, the son of Ebed, moved into Shechem with his relatives, and the leaders of Shechem put confidence in him. And they went out into the fields and gathered the grapes from their vineyards and trod them and held a festival. And they went into the house of their gods, and they ate and drank and reviled Abimelech. Cursed Abimelech. And Gal, the son of Ebed, said, Who is Abimelech? And who are we of Shechem that we should serve him? Is he not the son of Jerubbaal? And is not Zebul his officer? Serve the men of Hamor, the father of Shechem. But why should we serve him? Would that this people were under my hand, then I would remove Abimelech. I would say to Abimelech, increase your army and come out. He's boasting. If I was in charge, I'd say, get out here, let's fight. When Zebul, the ruler of the city, heard the words of Gal, the son of Ebed, his anger was kindled, and he sent messengers to Abimelech secretly, saying, Behold, Gal, the son of Ebed, and his relatives have come to Shechem, and they are stirring up the city against you. Now therefore go by night, you and the people who are with you, and set an ambush in the field. Then in the morning, as soon as the sun is up, rise early and rush upon the city. And when he and the people who are with him come out against you, you may do to them as your hand finds to do. So Abimelech and all the men who were with him rose up by night and set an ambush against Shechem in 4 companies. And Gal, the son of Ebed, went out and stood in the entrance of the gate of the city. Abimelech and the people who were with him rose from the ambush. And when Gal saw the people, he said to Zebul, Look, people are coming down from the mountaintops. And Zebul, that's the guy who sent the message to Abimelech, secretly saying, hey, this guy's talking smack. You might want to come over here and ambush him. Zebul says to him, nah, you mistake the shadows of mountains for men. You think those are men, but those are shadows of mountains. You're mistaking those shadows for men. He's playing it off. And Gal spoke again and said, Look, people are coming down from the center of the land, and one company is coming from the direction of the diviner's oak. Then Zebul says to him, Where is your mouth now, you who said, Who is Abimelech, that we should serve him? Are not these the people whom you despised? Go out now and fight with them. And Gal went out at the head of the leaders of Shechem and fought with Abimelech. And Abimelech chased him, and he fled before him. And many fell wounded up to the entrance of the gate. And Abimelech lived at Ormah, and Zebul drove out Gal and his relatives, so that they could not dwell at Shechem. So, Gal, I kind of went through that as we went. Gal comes to Shechem and tries to get the people to rebel against Abimelech. And he straight up says, Who is Abimelech? And who are we of Shechem that we should serve him? He's boastful. And he thinks he can replace Abimelech, but he's just another proud man wanting power. He's not being risen up by God. Zebul warned Abimelech, and then Abimelech attacks, and Gal is defeated and driven out. This chapter showing that when leadership is built on selfishness, everyone eventually turns on everyone else, basically. That's what I'm getting out of that. 42 to 49, verses 42 to 49. This is covering the destruction of Shechem. On the following day, the people went out into the field, and Abimelech was told. He took his people and divided them into 3 companies and set an ambush in the fields. And he looked and saw the people coming out of the city, so he rose against them and killed them. Abimelech and the company that was with him rushed forward and stood at the entrance of the gates of the city, while the 2 companies rushed upon all who were in the field and killed them. And Abimelech fought against the city all that day. He captured the city and killed the people who were in it, and he razed the city and sowed it with salt. When all the leaders of the tower of Shechem heard of it, they entered the stronghold of the house of El-Berith. Abimelech was told that all the leaders of the tower of Shechem were gathered together, and Abimelech went up to Mount Zalmon, he and all the people who were with him, and Abimelech took an axe in his hand and cut down a bundle of brushwood and took it up and laid it on his shoulder. And he said to the men who were with him, "What you have seen me do, hurry and do as I have done." So every one of the people cut down his bundle, and following Abimelech, put it against the stronghold, and they set the stronghold on fire over them. So all the people of the tower of Shechem also died, about 1,000 men and women. Abimelech attacks the field. Abimelech attacks the city of Shechem. He kills the people in the field, and he tears down the city. And he sows it with salt. Sowing it with salt would be polluting the soil and the water. It'll make it desolate, permanent. If you sow your ground with salt, you're not going to be growing crops. Then the leaders hid in the strong tower near the temple, and Abimelech took and cut bundles of wood and brush fire, is what it was, brush, and put it at the bottom, and they lit it and set it on fire. Do you remember Jotham's prophecy at the beginning? It says, "Let fire come out from Abimelech and devour Shechem." Well, 1,000 men and women died right here. That's the very last verse. 1,000 men and women died. That's the last verse, 49. This is happening exactly as Jotham prophesied that it would happen. We got to finish up this chapter 50 through 57. Let's read that. Then Abimelech went to Thebez and encamped against Thebez and captured it. But there was a strong tower within the city, and all the men and women and all the leaders of the city fled to it and shut themselves in it. And they went up to the roof of the tower, and Abimelech came to the tower and fought against it, and drew near to the door of the tower to burn it with fire. Just like they had done. Got the stuff, the brush, gonna put against it. He's doing the same thing. And a certain woman threw an upper millstone. A millstone is an actual rock. It's a stone that they use to grind up like wheat in the flour. And a certain woman threw an upper millstone on Abimelech's head and crushed his skull. Then he called quickly to the young man, his armor bearer, and said to him, "Draw your sword and kill me, lest they say of me, a woman killed me." And his young man thrust him through, and he died. And when the men of Israel saw that Abimelech was dead, everyone departed to his home. Thus God returned the evil of Abimelech, which he committed against his father in killing his 70 brothers. And God also made all the evil of the men of Shechem return on their heads, and upon them came the curse of Jotham, the son of Jerubbaal. Abimelech attacks another city called Thebez. And again, the people fled into the tower, and Abimelech goes near the tower to burn it. And then the woman drops the millstone on his head. And I found it interesting that he said, "Kill me so that people won't say a woman killed me." But yet, to this day, we know a woman killed him, sort of. I mean, it's wrote down in the Bible. I thought that was funny. But Abimelech lived by violence, and he died by violence. He wanted to make himself a king, but instead, he actually became a warning. Verse 56 says, "Thus God returned the evil of Abimelech." And then verse 57 says, "And God also made all the evil of the men of Shechem return on their heads." Don't be like Abimelech. Abimelech wanted power more than he wanted truth. More than family, more than God, he wanted power. Don't be like Abimelech. God eventually judges evil. For a while, it looked like Abimelech had won, but God didn't forget. Don't climb the totem pole in life by doing dirty deeds. If you're hurting others to get where you're at today, you will be judged by God. Don't do that. Sin turns allies into enemies. That's something else that we watched. At the beginning, Abimelech and Shechem were allies. But sin, they got together because of the evil. And then ultimately, they destroyed one another. And then notice here, God is still in control even when the people are not. There's no judge, no miracle, and almost no righteousness in this chapter. Yet God still quietly brings justice. God did not raise a judge in chapter 9, but yet he still judged the people in a sense. He doesn't need us, but it sure helps when he has us, I guess. In the end, Abimelech is the opposite of the kind of God, of the kind of king that God wanted. He points forward to the need for a true and righteous king. Abimelech killed his brothers to gain a crown, but yet Jesus gave his life to save his brothers. Abimelech ruled through fear. Jesus rules through love. Abimelech brought fire and destruction, and Jesus brings peace and life. Judges 9, it was not just about Abimelech for me. It was more of a warning about sinful leadership and a reminder that we need a better king. They needed a better king, and we have a better king. We have Jesus Christ on our side. That was chapter 9. We had a good men's Bible study tonight too, by the way. Don't forget about those. And I just wish there was a way I could let people know this isn't a fairy tale. I'm still at it, guys. I mean, once you figure it out, which I haven't, but once you realize that it's not, this life is temporary and there's more to it, I wish more people would realize that. Your life will become less stressful. You won't have much, I don't really have any worries. I'm still human. I still have a bad day, but I don't know. A lot of people, I've heard people say, I can't get over that. I hear people say that, I guess, bury me in shorts. They really think this is a game. And I hate it for them because it's not a game. But anyways, if you want to talk, call me. If you want to talk and don't have my number, message me. We can talk. I appreciate you watching tonight. It was good. And I'll catch you guys next Monday night at 9 p.m. We'll go over Judges 10 if that's where the Lord leads us. Y'all have a good night and God bless you.